So, joining us on our inaugural podcast, it's our first guest. It's Mr. Jonny Mounsor. How the devil are you?
I'm very well, thank you. I'm so excited for this, guys. Really, really am. Like the first episode as well. This is this
Yeah,
is
Yeah,
this
this
is
is a
amazing.
pretty special gig.
yeah. It's history.
I was going to say, like, I was feeling no pressure until you told me it's a really special gig, and now I'm like, right, I better live up to this. I'd better be good.
No, I'm sure you will. I'm sure
No,
you
you'll be
will.
fine.
So, let's get into it. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to talk a little bit about last season before we get into this season because we have no previous episodes, so we're going to talk about last season, and B, just because it was an incredible season, against all odds. Formula One was the pretty much the first sport to come back
Right, yeah.
after the coronavirus hit, and for it to be able to travel across the world with such a large production, I mean, it's incredible. So big up Formula One. But let's get into it, and I'll go to you, Jonny. For you, there were many, but for you, what was your standout moment from last season?
Oh my god, there were so many, weren't there? And I think the fact that, as you quite rightly say, the fact we even had racing at all was amazing. And like, thank you so much to those people who made my Sundays bearable last year. I think like one of the best things for me last year was, and the real standout moment was when George Russell finally got into the Mercedes. It was one of the most exciting things.
Nice.
I couldn't believe for a start. Like, when they said Lewis wasn't going to race, and all of a sudden, like those thoughts that you have where you're like, oh my God, is this going to happen? Are we going to see somebody else in a Mercedes? Like, this is so great. And then when it happened to be George, like, he's been shackled by this Williams. Like, he's been so talented for so long. All the other young drivers say, he's the man. Like, he's the one who's really good, but he's just not had a chance to show any of that. All of a sudden, he gets into a Mercedes. Right, and he's in this Mercedes, and you're like, oh, I hope he does. I hope he does okay. But what I'm going to talk, I'm not going to go into necessarily the bad side of this yet. But the real standout moment for me was you've got a brand new teammate who's been driving that car for a long time in Valtteri Bottas. It pushes him right to the limit, overtakes him. That for me was that was the best moment of last season. Just I can't explain. I was cheering so much. It was I wish there was a better term for this, but there isn't. That is as ballsy as it gets. Like getting into that car and saying, you know what? Yes, you've been driving this car for a while. I'm going to overtake you in it. And yes, it comes down to tires, but that's not the point. The point is he had the balls to just do it.
No,
and for me that was such a great moment.
Yeah,
I
definitely agree. Yeah,
it was incredible. Also, after you,
it was definitely the George Russell taking over Hamilton for a bit. Like, we've seen this young little, he's like a prodigy, and it's like we really want him to do well. And obviously, there are a few question marks still around that whole race, but big up him. Like, good for him, definitely. That was a standout moment for me.
When I was watching that, because it was after the first Bahrain race, wasn't it? So after the whole Grosjean thing, and it was like, God, how much excitement can we really get in this season? And I was like expecting Bottas to just kind of go out on his own, and maybe George would like have a solid race in second. Maybe that would be great to get some points. But the way that race went, and there was a video online, it's like a 13-minute video of George being spoken through the buttons, like what each button. So he's on the warm up, like, okay, so what does this button do? What does this? So he doesn't even know how to use the steering wheel properly.
Oh, bless him!
And he's gone and done that. And
I mean, let's not forget, he didn't fit in the car.
Yeah.
No,
It didn't even fit in the car. Like
he
we're
didn't
talking
fit in the car.
Yeah, we're talking about somebody who had to wear a pair of shoes a size too small so that he could actually use the pedals. Like he didn't fit in any way, and managed to do that. I just think, you know, it was the perfect story. You know, like I say, it was the fairy tale that wasn't to be in a lot of ways in the end, but
Yeah.
for the most part, absolutely incredible.
Yeah, I agree.
It was an incredible moment, and to be fair, it done him no harm whatsoever. Even the result, and the fact that they messed up for him, I think, even lends its weight even more. It's a more emotional story. People are always going to back him because of it, so he'll be all right. And you know, it looks pretty nailed on. That seat is his next season.
I really hope
Everything
so.
going to plan.
Yeah.
So we keep our fingers crossed. Thandie.
Hello.
Hello. I know that you have many a thought in your head about last season, but what was your favourite moment from last season?
So not necessarily my favorite moment, but this is a very standout moment for me.
For sure.
Which definitely, I think it was a standout moment for everyone, and it was the Grosjean crash.
Yeah.
Now, I think we forget how fast these guys are going, guys. We really do forget. Like, Formula One is literally a spaceship. It is now venturing into, you know, space kind of thing. So these guys are going extremely fast. And that halo, guys, is something that, you know, it's scientifically proven to keep you safe, but, you know, at the same time, it's all very scary. So I think with the Grosjean crash, it definitely reminded us how hard these guys work, how much they're risking their lives. And like, thank God that he's obviously out and about and he's great. And he only came out with burns. That's very rare. That is very rare.
Incredible.
Yeah.
And I think I remember talking to you at the time, Thandie, about it. And I remember saying to you, like, I've been watching Formula One, God, 25 years now. I have never seen a car crash and go up. It was almost like, you know, those action films where like the slightest thing will happen and, you know, a car will crash and it'll just blow up and you're like, oh.
But it was so fast as well. Like,
bang.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Instantaneous.
I couldn't believe it. I Like, I remember watching that, and it really did. It just stopped me dead in my tracks. I think, like everybody watching it, was just like, you know, because in our sort of lifetimes, like, you know, I've obviously seen footage of Lauda, and you know, we've seen bad crashes, and you know, unfortunately, like we have seen deaths in the sport, but I'd never seen anything like that. I've never ever seen a car, you know, like hit that Armco and then burst into flames. Like it was, you know, absolutely terrifying. And I think we all sort of feared for the worst. And the fact that, as you quite rightly say, Thandie, like he came out with just burns is incredible. And again, like those guys who were brave enough to run into the fire and get him out, and you know, just amazing work.
It was absolutely incredible. I think the interview with Martin Brundle, where he says that when he couldn't get out at first, and this is all in like 10 seconds or so, but when he couldn't get out, he was a peace came over him, like he had you know, he had accepted death, and a peace came over him. He felt calm, and then he kind of snapped out of it. I was like, no, I need to get out for my kids. And that's when he kind of twisted and his foot got stuck. So he's come out with no shoe on. And he's got, it is the fact that he's out alive, you know, miracle gets used a lot, but that is an absolute miracle.
And Grosjean's now gone to Formula E now, is it?
I think he's in some kind of he's in another racing series. I can't remember where it is, but he's carrying on racing, which just shows you. I think it might be sports cars, but it just shows you, you know, these guys, like you said, you know, they put their lives on the line, but they love it. Like it's, you know, those drivers were watching him getting pulled out of that car, and then they had to go race. Like straight away. Like so,
I think it's so easy for us to watch it on a Sunday and not appreciate just the level of risk and how dangerous, you know, it really is. And it is, you know, it's kind of like the same thing that makes the sport exciting is the same thing that makes it, that sort of danger. Like,
Yes.
that's why we love these guys, isn't it? Because they can do that. They're under extreme pressure, going so fast, being able to think that quickly. And that does kind of help put it into perspective. And that is as you said, like such a standout moment of the year. Like just, hopefully we never see anything like that again. It was
We
mad.
never have to say anything like that. Yeah.
Absolutely crazy. And no, yeah, absolutely spot on choice. And it probably is, just for like visceral effect, probably is the standout F1 thing.
Definitely.
I think a lot of people who watched Drive to Survive when that episode's come on, I think a lot of them, it's like a really emotional thing to kind of see and to kind of bring home, like you say, like just how dangerous this sport is. And, I think the human side of it as well. These are, they're not just guys driving around a circle, as some people like to kind of, who don't know, like to think, like they're athletes, and they're almost stunt drivers, the way that they're working. So great choice. I am going to go for the obvious one.
I think this is very obvious, guys.
I'm going to go for Lewis Hamilton.
No surprises.
Look, okay, if I'm going to start a Formula One podcast, okay, you're going to need to know that I'm going to talk about Lewis Hamilton whenever I can, okay? Look, quick peep from my Twitter will tell you that. But no, I think for me, it is just the, I think I'm just going to say the level of driving throughout the year to get to the 7th world title, I think is of a level that we haven't seen before from him. I think there were so many races where he drew Bottas in, when Bottas was leading. His tire management was incredible, and allowed him to win in Turkey. That Turkey race is mad. We're talking about, I think it was like some 30-40 laps on soft tires in the rain. Like, it is incredible. The victory in Portugal, the victory in Nürburgring, where he chased Bottas down on both occasions. But just in general, I just think it's just great that we have someone like that in the sport, who is an excellent driver, but obviously, as we know, an excellent person. And all the work that he's done to kind of bring F1 into working on diversity, I think it gets underestimated. I think in stuff like football and basketball, there's like a strength in numbers kind of thing. But when you look at Lewis, he's literally the only one, and for him to be so loud and so proud about it, as a black man, it was really inspiring, and I'm sure it's inspiring for everyone else as well. But yeah, that's my gushing on episode 1.
I will agree though. Like, I've got to agree with you. Like, especially on that Turkey race. Like, that Turkey race really for me was a proper champion's drive. That was like it was just so mature. It was so experienced. It was just, look, for the most part, not just going steady, and then when he needs to, bang, there it is. Like, that's why he is so good. And that is there is no debate. Fantastic driver.
And I think at the same time, we've got to remember Formula One came back, and it was the earliest, as we were saying earlier. It was one of the earliest sports to actually come back during the pandemic, and the world was going through all kinds of madness. It was the Black Lives Matter uprising. It was a lot of these athletes trying to display their way of saying Black lives do matter. And Lewis is a black man in a sport surrounded by all white men. There's no other people around him, and the entire team came together. They had the cool new colors. They looked sick.
Yeah, no. Respect to Mercedes for that.
Yeah, and Mercedes got all these cool, like, it was, when you take on a Black Lives Matter for Mercedes, you are taking on all their sponsors. There's Tommy Hilfiger, there's watches, there's Hublot, you're taking on all these brands. And so it was, to some people, it might actually seem a bit of a risk to kind of be on a side where, we're in a sport where there's predominantly white men, and, Formula One has its history of not actually ever having white men around, and black men around, and we have racism for Lewis a lot. So I don't know if I'm making sense here, but it was a moment in history, guys.
Yeah, for sure.
It was definitely a moment in history. Yeah. And Lewis, in fact, sometimes he was wearing all these I can't breathe t-shirts, and he wasn't actually allowed to wear them in certain areas. And not many people know that. Yeah. So he was kind of breaking the rules.
He really was. He did whatever he could, and I think it's just a case of I was watching, and it's a different time or whatever, but I was watching the Last Dance documentary. I think just before Formula One came back, and Michael Jordan was kind of asked to speak up for like a Democratic candidate, I think in Chicago, who was black, basically, and he was like, "Look, I don't do politics," and that was like a massive sports person and it would have been easy for Lewis to say, I don't want to bring politics into this. The heat that he gets and online, especially at whenever he does something, is mad. You can tell there's probably within the paddock people. We can tell because there's people who objected to kneeling. So
I still don't get that, by the way. I still don't understand if you're a Formula One driver and like why would you not do that? Why, like, do you not stand?
Guys,
do you not
I
stand
was
with
looking
Lewis?
at a few drivers differently after that.
Same.
I'm not going to mention any names, but I feel like people are looking at a certain person a bit differently, but it's okay.
It's okay. Yeah, look, but this is the thing. It is a privileged sport. So, people in football, and there's people of every nationality of driver who's refused to kneel, who are kneeling in football, who are kneeling in other sports. So, the excuses about how it is in their culture run very thin, because you have compatriots in sports as visible kneeling, and so we're all looking at people a lot funnier, and I think that emphasizes just the job that he has to do. But I think now, in years to come, I don't think it'll be appreciated now as much, but in years to come, when we look back, we have lived through, like you say, we've lived through history, and he's been at the forefront of it, and I love him. So
he really is a superhero, isn't he?
He is definitely a superhero. But let's move on from the Hamilton love, because I could go on for ages.
We all know that. We definitely all know that.
Yeah. Okay. Follow me on Twitter if you want daily Hamilton musics. But but okay. So we've talked about the highs and the good parts of last season. Let's get into the things that were maybe slightly disappointing. So Jonny, for you, what was one thing about last season that, or one person or one team or whatever, that was a little bit disappointing for you?
Yeah, there were a few of these, and it was quite hard to pick one. If I have to pick my most disappointing moment, it's very much a case of what goes up must come down, and it's George Russell not getting the finish that he deserved in that race. Like, that was for me the most, because I'd been taken to this absolute high, to then have that taken away was probably the most disappointing. But I was disappointed by, Alex Albon, if I'm really honest.
Whose fault was it, Jonny? Okay.
Whose fault was it? Whose fault was it? It's always Max, isn't it? I think like that's the problem, is like it's very hard to be Max's teammate, and I think that shines through in everything that you see around that sort of Red Bull garage. As Christian Horner said many times, his favorite driver is the one who wins for Red Bull. And if you're going up against Max Verstappen, who, to be fair, has upped his game and has, I think, been a very impressive. There's been a really sort of impressive upturn in his sort of performances, and I think that's he's very hard to compete with. He's a very hard competitor, and I think you
It
have to have
is.
a real steely mindset if you're going to go up against somebody like that. And if I'm being dead honest, I'm not quite sure that Alex Albon had that. I think a few more years in Toro Rosso might have actually been good for him. And I think, there is obviously a bit of a history of promoting drivers too soon. And it's probably what happened to him. But every week I'd sit down and think, maybe this is the week he's going to show us, like maybe this is it. And he'll kind of put that challenge in. And, he got his podium, but for the most part, he was pretty underwhelming. And I have to say I was pretty disappointed there.
Yeah. Thandie, anything to add to that?
Yeah, I definitely agree.
I know
You
you've got
guys know
thoughts about Red Bull.
I like to call that seat the haunted seat. It's very haunted.
Yeah.
And it can make a man and it can break a man. And I think at the moment, Paul Albon is in a space I like to call the unknown. And it's the unknown. And I feel really sorry for him, you guys. He's just, he's floating about. And I just wish him the best of luck, honestly, because he wasn't ready. I definitely agree. He wasn't ready.
He wasn't.
Mhm.
And the thing is, with that, like you say, Jonny, you have to have absolute nerves of steel to go up against Verstappen. And even Ricciardo, it could be argued, kind of saw what was coming and said, I don't want any parts of that. And possibly to the detriment of his career. Time will tell whether McLaren will be able to, provide a championship winning car. It's looking this season like they're probably going to be third fastest. So maybe I'll eat my words. I hope I do, because I love him. But that Red Bull seat it has literally KO'd Kvyat. It has KO'd Gasly, and it's now KO'd. Ricciardo, and it's KO'd Gasly, and now Albon. And it's very hard to not look at it as the environment within that team. I mean, I was watching Drive to Survive. Bless him, Christian. I think Alex. It might have been after the Antoine Hubert crash, and I think he was like talking to Alex, and obviously Alex is obviously quite shaken by what's happened, and he's clearly probably just needs like an arm around the shoulder kind of moment. And Christian goes, "All right, well, give it your all today." He would have. It was like he would have given his arm to be where you are. And it's like, Christian, he's literally just passed away.
Yeah. If there's any like sensitivity training going in F1, like let's send some of that Christian Horner.
There's none.
Would you want to work for Christian Horner? Not entirely sure I would as a driver, if I'm honest.
No,
not at all.
No.
And so it's a shame. That car, it was clearly difficult to drive, and it for someone who doesn't have that much experience of A, setting up Formula One cars, B, into team politics, and C, just the pressure of essentially a race winning car. It was it's too much for someone like Alex. And I hope with a merry-go-round, that maybe he gets to go back to Toro Rosso and, gets a couple of years in there. And, we can see maybe him against Tsunoda, and, if Gasly does end up moving on, hopefully, we'll be able to see that and, have a measuring stick for him, as a Formula One driver. Because, I mean, the same way that the guys all talk about George Russell, George himself was really vocal about, these guys are making him look like an idiot. I think was it Lando Norris had a poster of Alex Albon on his wall when he was when they were growing up, like karting. He that was the thing. He was the guy. So I totally agree with that. It's a shame, but I think it's for the best. For the best. Thandie,
hello.
What was disappointing? What vexed you?
Right. So here's the thing, I've been watching a lot of Drive to Survive prior to this, you guys.
Okay.
And do you know what was just giving me the ick? Like, it was really like, sorry to swear, pissing me off, right? And it was a lack of pace from Kevin Magnussen and Grosjean with Haas.
Yeah,
That's fair.
that is fair.
Yeah. I was, guys, I wanted them to do well, but it was just disappointing. It was just disappointing. So for Haas to perform better, I'd really like that for like to kind of set a pace, guys, because come on now.
Yeah.
And like the first race, was it Austria where they were actually quite promising? And it
Yeah.
looked like, all right, I think they cheated with the tyres. But like, you got to try something, haven't you, when you're Haas? So
Yeah.
they looked kind of promising there, and then it just sort of fell away. And I'd wondered for years, by the way, why, especially when you have watched Drive to Survive, and you've seen like Gunter Steiner shouting at the drivers and telling them that they're basically getting sacked every week without actually getting sacked.
Yeah.
And there is a point where you're like, look, mate, if you want to change your drivers, then change your drivers. But like, you can't just keep telling them they're sacked every week. It's going to lose impact at some point. And then he finally does go, you know what, I'm going to change it now. And obviously he's changed it to 50% of a good team.
Yeah.
I mean, what can you say about Haas? It's crazy because they there was no, they could have done the changing of drivers last season. Like after the performances that Kevin and Grosjean had, crashing into each other, whole crashing out in general, like no one expected them to keep their seat. But I guess because the car was so bad, they were like, well, we need someone who knows how bad the car is, because if we give it to someone new, then maybe they're going to just not have a clue what to do with it. So they kept him. But I mean, it was clear to see that I think both of them, they had their time in F1.
Yeah, for sure.
Mm-hmm.
They've had their chance. One of my friends, to mention Drive to Survive again, but has like no clue about Drive to Survive, about Formula One, absolutely no clue. Tweeted me the other day, like Grosjean crashes a lot, doesn't he? That is, he does get mixed up in it. And unfortunately, he's a good driver, podium.
We just need to wrap him up,
Yeah, he needs a lot of confidence.
Yeah.
He needs to be given like all the love. I don't think Gunter.
Yeah, can you imagine Romain Grosjean being managed by Christian Horner? Like that is that would be. I would purely watch Drive to Survive for that.
Yeah,
I'd watch a whole series just watching that relationship just sort of unravel over a course of a series.
Yeah,
it would be awful.
Oh my god, that would be box office TV. So thank you for that, Thandie. Very good choice. I'm gonna say I've got a few. I'm gonna go with Ferrari, and I'm gonna go specifically Vettel. Because the car is dog. Like let's make no mistakes about it. Okay, the car obviously is come off the back of the season before where the engine irregularities happened. So they had this rocket ship in the back of their car. Something was obviously not legal on it. They had to change it, and it's just absolutely gone into the next season. And the car was just awful. It's awful to drive. But in F1, you are measured against your teammate. And much like in 2014, I want to say. Yep, much like in 2014 when, he got absolutely outclassed by Ricciardo. And it seemed like he checked out. And obviously it was clear he was going to move teams. I think it's happened again. He obviously got told that his contract wasn't getting renewed before the season even started. That's obviously had an effect. I think some of his performances, not getting into Q2 on occasions. Sorry, not getting into Q1 on occasions. I think there was one occasion where he went out I think it was at Monza, wasn't it? Where he didn't get into Q2.
It's not really a place you want to do that when you're driving a Ferrari, is it?
Look, I'm an Arsenal fan, and there's times, and look, you're a Newcastle fan as well, Jonny. So I guess there's times this season where I'm like, you're lucky there's no one in those grounds.
Oh,
because
100%.
I'm a Liverpool fan, guys. I'm a Liverpool fan.
Well, to be fair, you're a Liverpool fan, so you're actually probably wanting to be in the ground, although you're not doing that great this season. But it's not been as much of a horror show as what I'm an Arsenal fan. It's been bad. Jonny, obviously Newcastle. We won't talk about that. I know this is a Newcastle safe.
Yeah, so at least like for you guys, you've both had times when it was good.
Yeah, exactly.
That's fair. I'll take that.
So with Ferrari and Vettel, he's lucky that there was no fans on Monza, because if he didn't get out of Q1 into Q2, the reception would have been awful. And I just think, I didn't think the move from or Racing Point at the time, Aston Martin now, for them to replace Vettel with Checo with Vettel, I didn't agree with it at the time. I'm still jury's out on that one, to be honest. I think he's lucky that his teammate isn't the strongest, because I personally genuinely think that we're looking at a driver in decline, and have been since Hockenheim 2018, when he crashed out when Lewis Hamilton was chasing him down. So I think since then, that's when the spinning started. That's when the poor performances started. I was really disappointed, as you can tell.
It comes across.
I want better.
No, it's true. It's true that you're right, and I think I have to agree with that. I think Vettel was really disappointing. The kind of, like you say, the spins, like just the inconsistency. Yeah, I don't think he was backed by his team, and I think they probably got in his head with that a little bit. But this season, where it should be, exciting seeing Vettel, hopefully driving a half decent car, maybe not. But it should be exciting. It should be a chance for us to see like a great driver give things a go. But unfortunately, I kind of agree with you. I think it's a bit of a case of we're probably looking at somebody just sort of running down his last few years, and it's kind of sad in a way that he'll be in the midfield battles, where not really where he should be.
Yeah. So Thandie, do you want to say something?
No, I agree again. I think with Vettel, we've kind of just seen the man deteriorate. And this new gig, Aston Martin, I'm not going to lie to you guys, I'm not very hopeful of it. I don't think we're going to get much from him. I feel at this point, he's literally he's kind of just, he's still in the game, he's just playing along, he's comfortable. But as you said, maybe we do have a better car this time round, and he might just show a bit of effort. But I do think he sits in the same bag as Bottas, where those two are bums. Sorry.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. I'm sorry.
I wasn't expecting that at all.
Straight out of nowhere.
I'm sorry. But that's what I'm seeing now, guys. Like, come on, make space for the young ones, I say. Or the people who at least care.
Look, and I think, I think he even admitted himself that he was close to leaving Formula One. And whether that's because a late offer came from Aston Martin, or maybe, he was always, contemplating what to do with Aston Martin. I think in Drive to Survive, there's a clip of Horner essentially saying, they're having a conversation, and essentially it's like, maybe take a year out, and then Vettel's like, and then I'll come home, and Horner's like, yeah. So, Red Bull potentially could have had him back in 2022, with the new regulations and whatever. But obviously he's chosen to go down this path. I think with Vettel, we'll see. I think with Vettel, Bottas, I think we will see this season. our eyes can't deceive us. We've got 4 seasons now of solid data on how these people have performed, and there's obviously been highs, but there's been quite a lot of lows. So let's see the season if it changes.
Adding to this Bottas conversation, sorry to.
That's fine. No,
I'm
you can
still
sneak
going
in
on.
another disappointment.
I'm
That's
still
fine.
going on. And with that, as we were saying, I feel like we just don't want that group of bums to end up to kind of sway towards. Oh my gosh, I'm about to say it. I'm going to say it.
Okay.
We don't want him to sway towards Alonso's bag.
Okay, so what do you mean?
Because I feel like Alonso at the moment, like, why does he keep coming back, you guys? Like, why? Alonso.
Well, in his mind, he's saying that I was watching the driver press conference today, and he was adamant. He said, "I'm not that much older than Lewis. I'm keep getting questions about my age, but
Bless him.
the person, the person who is dominating the sport." He's only a couple of years younger than me, so I don't feel, and the cars aren't physically that exerting. He doesn't feel like, he still feels. He said quite categorically, "I still think I'm the best driver on the grid."
Pardon?
Well,
Huh?
we will see. His problem, Alonso, and I'm sure Johnny, you probably got something to say on this as well. But Alonso's problem is he has talked himself out of drives since 2007. Like, he has literally every team he's been at. He talked himself out of McLaren, went to Ferrari, talked himself out of Ferrari. The next season they had a good car. Like, and to be fair to him, he was patient with them. I think there was quite a long, he was there quite a long time. He goes back to McLaren. Literally, not only does he piss off McLaren, he pisses off Honda to the point where they did a revenge glow up on him at Red Bull.
Revenge glow up.
That is fantastic.
I love that, revenge glow up.
Like, he's looking at Instagram like, "Oh wow, this Honda engine is looking good. I should not have called it a GP2 engine." He's back at Renault. And I hope it goes well. But I don't think he will ever be in a championship winning car again. And at the end of the day, no one's Mercedes won't take him. We'll see if Red Bull ever take him. A Ferrari, I don't think will ever take him. So unfortunately, for me, I don't see it happening like that for Alonso again. But it's box office when that Alpine car starts breaking down and the Renault engine starts going bang, and we have to deal with his radio again. So
yeah,
it does feel insane that, like, in the year 2021, we have a grid on which we have Vettel, Alonso, and Kimi Räikkönen. Like, that to me doesn't look like a sport that's moving forward. Unfortunately, in terms of sort of getting new drivers in and trying to give people a go, like, these guys have been around forever. Like Alonso coming back and giving it the big one about I'm this, I'm that. It's like, look, I loved Alonso when he was in that Renault the first time round. I thought it was amazing. Like, someone finally battled Schumacher. We got some amazing races. After that, he falls out with teammates. He starts to go a bit wayward, and is he the driver he was? To be honest, we don't know. I'd be very surprised if he, in all honesty, if he even gets a podium this season. I'll be surprised. I think, again, he shouldn't be hanging around the midfield, but I think he will be. There'll be some fun battles in the midfield. Like, that's one thing to look forward to, is we will have some proper racers in the midfield. But should they be there? Maybe not.
Maybe not. I agree. And speaking of someone who may not be there next season, I've already given a disappointment, haven't I?
Yeah, this isn't about you.
It's better. I went in, didn't I? Jesus. I was going to mention Bottas.
I thought you were just going to dig him again. I thought you were going to go, my second disappointment is
I was like,
Vettel
I know. I thought he was just going to go for the kill again.
I'm back to Vettel. No, I was going to just say, I hope for Bottas's sake, I'm just going to say I do hope that. I mean, look, actually, we can get into this because there is a donkey of the season, so we can get into that. But for you guys, who was your star of last season, Jonny?
If we weren't doing a podcast where I feel like I have to say something interesting, it's obviously Lewis Hamilton, right? Like far and away, it's Lewis Hamilton. But for the sake of, I can safely bank on you saying the same, Nyash. So I think I'm fine.
Yeah.
But I honestly think Checo Perez was my star last season. I thought, to get that first win, he's under pressure. He knows that he's going out of that team.
Mm-hmm.
There was a very brief sort of 10 seconds in my mind when they announced the, Aston Martin takeover and Vettel joining. And there was like 10 seconds where I was like, oh, Vettel and Perez, what a great team. Before, obviously, I realized the Strolls exist and that's never going to happen. And I just think he's done so well. I mean, he's a master of managing tyres, which actually, strangely, he credits Kamui Kobayashi for teaching him how to manage tyres, which I think is amazing. Just cool. of all the
quite
things.
Interesting because, but they say that Tsunoda, they call him the tire whisperer because in F2 he's so good. So maybe it's like a Japanese thing. Who knows?
Yeah. Maybe
tire
like it's.
Yeah,
they say that
he's talking to the tires. Who knows what he's saying to him?
I can just hear Thandie working out like, how do I get that nickname? What do I need to do where people will call me that?
Right? Hashtag.
If you're
tire whisperer. That's so cool.
That's definitely the name of this pod now. The tire whisperer.
I'm going to introduce our podcast every time and be like, I'm Thandie, aka Tyre Whisperer.
Yeah. You should.
It's the only way. It's the only, you have to now. But yeah, Perez for me, really, really impressive. Getting that first win, when the chips are down and it kind of looks like, the world's going against you, you're leaving F1. He's got no idea what the future holds and absolutely deserves that Red Bull seat, I think. So yeah, he had a brilliant season. Love watching him drive. Mr. Consistent. No surprise that when it came down to tires, that's when he ends up on the podium. So his experience, like I say, I love the way he drives, and I think he deserves a chance in the Red Bull.
Yeah, he does. Thandie, any thoughts on Perez?
I'm very happy. Yeah, the tire whisperer. I'm very happy for Perez. I do actually want to see him do well this season because I think he's a brilliant driver, to be honest. I really do. And it would be nice, to sit in the haunted seat and do a bit of something, do his magic.
I think he'll do well. I think in qualifying he'll still be maybe a couple tenths off Max, just because Max has great 1 lap pace.
Oh yeah, you're never going to beat Max over 1 lap. Like I'd basically look at that paddock and I don't even know who I would back to beat Max over 1 lap. I think definitely not. But that's why I think that sort of tire management, that full race sort of view is so important, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to open up a lot for Red Bull essentially because they're going to be able to. Probably, I think what may happen, depending on track, is they're going to send him out as much as possible in Q2 on like medium tires, and essentially just have him going long on the first stint and just disrupting the Mercedes as much as he can, or going long on the second phase. But they're going to be able to do a lot more stuff that they just couldn't with Alex because Alex is qualifying in 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th place. And, that's then leaving Mercedes 2-on-1 with Max. And it's hard to run strategy there. So I think it's going to be an amazing fight this season with both Max and Perez in those seats against Bottas and Lewis. And, I think it's going to be just for that, even if the Red Bull has the same pace as last season, and Mercedes have the same pace, I just think having an extra driver in there is just going to make everything a lot better than it was. So we shall see. Thandie,
Hello. So,
your star.
start of the last season. So, well, let's not go with the obvious and obviously give accolades to wonderful Lewis Hamilton.
Of course.
And the
Leave
guy
that to
who
me,
I've
don't
so the guy who I've chosen is a young Frenchman named Pierre Gasly,
Oh,
who I think has made an amazing amount of progress. Like his progress as a driver, unbelievable. Give him
yeah.
accolades, all of it. Give him the flowers because, 2019 was a very difficult time for him. And I recently read an article where he has said like it was possibly the worst time for him. He lost his friend in Formula 2 in a crash. This guy has made excellent, he's getting there. And I'm actually rooting for him.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
he last season. I mean, taking away the victory at Monza, which was obviously just incredible, and as much as I would have loved to see fans there to boo Vettel, it would have been amazing for them to be able to cheer him on to victory, especially as they're an Italian team. So that would have been awesome. But he was just consistent last season. Like his driving was up there in terms of, I think on par with probably with Perez, to be honest, like in terms of just consistent driving, obviously in like a slower car as well, but for him to be, basically, beating Alex on occasion, both
He's
in
a very
qualifying.
teammate as well. That's what I think. There's a lot of people who don't use that teammateship, but I think with Pierre, you're good. You're good.
You're good.
Also,
Yeah.
we need to talk about his Instagram. That man
I've never
has,
been on his Instagram.
that man has style. That man has style.
Really?
Yeah.
Do you know who
But
my
he's like
favorite
French, isn't
driver?
he? So he's
Yeah,
like,
of course.
Yeah,
of course,
exactly.
Of
He's
course.
got it. He knows what he's doing. Like every time,
Let me
there'll
have
be
a
like
look.
a
You know
photo
what?
of Pierre Gasly. I'm like, you're looking good. It like
Oi.
it makes
You
me
look
it makes me a bit
dapper.
jealous.
I'm gonna put this up on the video, but this pic of him on a hammock by the sea is so saucy. Oh my god!
Yeah, he
That
knows.
is
Pierre
incredible.
Gasly. He's like
What a
he's
babe.
unapologetically French, isn't he?
Oh,
Really is.
look, if I look
Really
like
is.
that, I'd be unapologetically anything, bro. Jesus, what a guy.
I just look at some of his, like every now and again, I'll go on there, have a look at some of his outfits, and then think, why did I not win the sort of gene lottery that he has? Like unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like he's and he's making the best of it, and fair play to him. He gets the correct amount of likes on his photos.
Look.
He does, yeah. I'm happy for him.
He's definitely not blaming the algorithm at all. Fun fact I didn't know was that Pierre and Lewis spend a lot of time playing like Call of Duty and
Do they?
So I think Pierre was saying that him and Hamilton like spend like a lot of time just playing online with each other and talking. He was like, Hamilton's really helped me. He was like really nice to me, especially like last year, kind of talking me through and stuff. He always gives me advice. I was like, just didn't expect that, didn't know that, but
yeah, I love that.
It's really cool. I think that's maybe another thing that my star of the season doesn't get enough credit for. No,
to be honest, the pair of them are quite trendy, so I can imagine them just
it kind of makes
let me
sense,
borrow your Amiri jeans and come over and play Call of Duty.
Yeah, do you know what I mean? That's what a pair of lads. My star of the season is, you've both taken the people that I was going to say, so I'm going to go with Danny Ricciardo.
Oh yes.
Just because he was good, but also because I just want Thandie to be able to talk about him. But I think Danny really showed just how much of a top class driver he is. I think he really got the most out of a bang average Renault car. Let's be honest. I think it was probably quickest at out of the midfield at a few races, but overall, I don't think it was. For him to get 2 podiums out of it, and of course, there was obviously an element of luck in both of them, but for him to be there to pick up the pieces was great. I think he nearly got a podium as well in Tuscany when Alex Albon got his podium. So I think he is driving at a really consistent level. He's driving like a 7-time race winner. I'm really excited to see how he gets on at McLaren. I think that he will have the measure of Norris once he gets used to the car. Although I do think Norris is a great driver and was equal to Sainz last season. So, no slouch, but I do really think, Ricciardo, after Verstappen and Hamilton, I think Ricciardo is just below those two, to be honest, in terms of raw talent, pace, overtaking. I think he's probably up there with the best of them. And I just think he had a really good season. But that's enough for me. Thandie, what did you think?
I thought Ricciardo did absolutely amazing. Really proud of him. I
Look at you gushing.
He's
not even here.
I just love, what they call him, the honey badger. Yeah, I love that about him. He just comes on, he's smiling, he looks like a vibe. I do follow him on Instagram. So when we were on about Pierre Gasly having a cool Instagram, I was thinking, shut up, because Ricciardo's got a cool Instagram too. But do you know what? His progress as a driver, it's one of my favourites. And I definitely agree with you, Nyasha, when you're saying that he is top 3. He's right, but he's very close to Hamilton in how hard he works. And I just love the idea of him in this McLaren car. We obviously know that, I'm not saying it's for certain, but Lewis has only taken 1-year contract. If Lewis is to leave, I think in an ideal world, this year is Ricciardo's year to kind of show his potential. Some podiums, rack up some points. And I think if Lewis is to leave, he is in a very good place to kind of, set pace to a few of these drivers. Do you know what I mean? Yeah. So that's why I love that guy. I think he's a great driver. I really do. And I think he's very misunderstood in a way. I think at first he was misunderstood. I think some people think he's a bit of a prick. And I think that kind of maybe stems from when he was in Red Bull, perhaps, but that comes to that haunted chair, as I said again. No one's ever going to be as good as he who shall not be named. But yeah, so I think he fits very much into McLaren.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
Yeah, Jonny, so this is his year. Keep an eye out.
For sure. Jonny, your thoughts on Ricciardo?
Oh, I absolutely love the bloke. If there's like one driver that I want to have a pint with, it's Daniel Ricciardo. Like, you'd have a good time. Again, like his
Doesn't
Instagram
he just
is
look
strong.
like a laugh?
He does. Yeah. He is, isn't he? Like, he is. He's fun. Like, he's the kind of bloke that you want around, right? Like, he's good fun. Like, he's, I've got so much time for him. I love that. Like, the only time I've not seen him smile, like smile completely wiped off his face, was when he was reminded after he got on the podium, and someone said to him, "You didn't do a shoey, Daniel."
Yeah,
face just drops, and he was like, "Oh my god, how I've missed my moment." You could see it that dawned on him, and he gets like, "That's a measure of the man." Like that's the only time I've seen him look disappointed, and it's because he didn't, let's be clear, drink alcohol out of a shoe. So I love him. I've got so much time for Danny Ricciardo. And yeah, I mean, look, I'm gushing now, but I hope that in McLaren he gets the car that he deserves and can really challenge.
Yeah, like if the Renault move was maybe a rash move and like an ill thought out move, maybe, I think the McLaren one is a really smart move for him. I think he'll be a team leader. They've got the Mercedes engine in there. It's a team on the up. It's a team who are innovative. I think they're going to let him be who he wants to be as well. I think honestly, I've never seen someone with as many endorsements. I'm on his Instagram every other day. This guy has got an endorsement. It is crazy. But I think
It's the golden smile.
it is. Look,
It is.
if I was going to choose anyone other than Lewis to advertise something from Formula One, it would be Daniel. Like I think as well, when you talk about personalities to carry the sport, if it is Lewis's last season, he is going to be one of those people who is going to be like globally like an ambassador for the sport. And he is great.
I think Norris is nervous, though. I think Norris is genuinely nervous. Like, he didn't look massively at ease in the McLaren car launch. Like, he's obviously made a very clear decision that he's going to be more serious this season. That came across from Norris.
Yeah.
And then obviously sort of Danny Ricciardo, drives his McLaren in, walks in, just sort of laughing and joking. Yeah, I think Norris probably will be a little bit nervous. It's got to be hard that when you're, Norris is the guy who's been at that team for a little bit longer. He probably does consider himself to be the first driver there. And I think somebody coming in with the experience and the pace of Danny Ricciardo would make you nervous. So yeah, I think quite rightly he's probably feeling that pressure. And yeah, he probably does need to take another step. But I think being pushed by Danny Ricciardo is no bad thing.
I think it's a bad thing. And I think it's a win-win situation for both. I think if Danny Ricciardo beats Norris, I think that's to be expected. So I don't think it reflects on Norris that badly, and he'll still be thought of as going through development. So I think that's fine. And obviously, look, if he beats him, then that just opens up, a whole new floodgate of opportunities for Lando. So yeah, I think it'll be interesting. I think the whole bromance thing really disguised I think shortcomings in both drivers, for Sainz and Norris. I think Sainz didn't perform as well as he could have against Norris, and I think because of the bromance, it was kind of like shrugged under. But he's got a Ferrari drive, but Norris, I think, beat him in qualifying, and I don't know if he beat him in the standings as well. So we shall see. So we've actually gone on for so long about last season. We've not even spoken about the coming season. But I guess that just shows how good a season it was, how much meat on the bones there was from last season. But let's go into this season. And I guess, Jonny, I'm going to ask you, like, what's one thing that you're kind of looking forward to seeing? What's one thing that you're anticipating from the new season coming up?
The biggest thing for me is, and I hope this happens, is seeing Red Bull finally really challenge Mercedes. It's the race that we all want to see. It's the race that every F1 fan has wanted to see. Verstappen getting a chance to race Lewis Hamilton. That's what we're here for. Like, we've been waiting for years. It's the race that's been promised. I think Red Bull are in a place where, potentially, do I think Red Bull will win the Constructors' Championship? No. Do I think they'll push Mercedes a bit harder? Yes. I think that's absolutely what we want to see. Red Bull are now set. They've, with Verstappen, and they've got, I think, the perfect sort of rear gunner, which they haven't really had in the last few years in Perez.
Yeah.
Where, Perez understands that team. He's seen how that team works. He knows the game and he's no fool. He knows what his job is there, and he's going to be racing for the team. And I think that's kind of genuinely exciting from a Red Bull perspective. And like I say, Verstappen is quick. He is quick, and I think he's matured. I think he's got better. There are some sort of moves that he made last season where I think it's a different Max to the Max we saw a few years ago, and I think that's genuinely exciting to see. And given give them the right car, I think you've got a team there that can work really, really well together. I think, like I say, Perez's rear gunner is such a good move for Red Bull. I'm glad they stepped out of just going through that junior driver program, because it's become apparent, as we discussed earlier, it's not really working. Do something different. I think, it's that, like I say, it's the race that we want to see. So please give us that race.
Yes. Yeah. I couldn't say it better, Jonny. Thandie, anything to add on a Red Bull versus Mercedes title fight?
That would definitely be a lot of fun, and I think we might just see it this season, definitely. I think we're at a place where we've again got very good drivers who can keep up with the pace with Lewis. So I look forward to it. I look forward to it. We've got. I mean, what track would you think? Do you think you want to see that on?
Oof.
There's a question.
I would say, you know what? There was a. I'll just give an example, and I guess in terms of like, if I could have like, I don't know, if it was like a race where it'd be good. Bahrain is actually a really good track for overtaking, you know. And if we have like, and especially like first race of the season, Mercedes look like they're not as quick. So if it is as it was in testing, and Red Bull come out the blocks quick in Bahrain, where there's loads of overtaking opportunities available and a track where Lewis is really strong at, I think we could have one of the most classic opening races of the season. That would be what I would probably think.
I wouldn't even know where to start with that. Like I've got this real soft spot for the Turkish track. I absolutely love it. Like and also for the sake of racing in Spain, like we do not talk about last season's Spanish Grand Prix, but flipping heck, that needs a good race soon. So maybe that one, just to keep that, to keep people going to that track rather than going there and then feeling like they've probably like necked a pot of calms or whatever, sleeping tablets. It was absolutely awful last season. So
it was awful, wasn't it? The Spanish Grand Prix, I remember the French from 2019, the French Grand Prix was so boring as well, and that's back on the calendar. So hopefully, like I say, I think it gets boring as well when obviously the Mercedes check out at the front, and then it's just like a procession. And like I say, it would be great if this season we've got different strategies, we've got 4 drivers. That's what we want. Give it to us, please.
Plus, like Mercedes don't look that quick at the moment, and they never do. I'm always wary because, we all know how much Mercedes love to sandbag that car. But I don't know. I'm trying to read faces. I'm always trying to read faces through testing because, the times will tell you nothing. I just want to see, I want to see the faces on the people driving those cars and try and work out whether they think they've got a dog or not.
Yeah.
They looked nervous, I would say, but Toto did come out and say that they found what was wrong and why it was so difficult to drive. So let's see. But even just the fact that they've not had as much prep time, it leads, even if it just means for the first few races they're still playing catch up, that's great for the championship. Thandie, what are you looking forward to?
On that subject, I did read something which, because I'm not really, I'm trying to get more into the ingenuity, is that a word, of these cars, and I read somewhere that so Mercedes had a bit of a lift last year, yes?
Yeah.
And this year they've come down a bit, and maybe that lift gave them a bit of an advantage.
So I think you are referring to the rake.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially, I'm doing it on video, but the way that the car is slanted downwards, essentially to get
so it's tilted.
to get downforce. So before it was like that, quite high tilted, and I think they've changed the dimensions, and essentially it didn't go as planned because of the new regulations. They've basically stripped loads of downforce, so the downforce that they had before, because of the regulations and because of the design, basically it's not worked. But they're saying that they found what was wrong. So could be bravado, but if I trust anyone in Formula One to be a straight talker, it's Toto Wolff, to be honest. So
the most coolest guy in Formula One, if anything. He's so chill, isn't he?
He's great. I love that man. He's a great guy.
Yeah, he's a proper father.
Yeah,
I see him as a proper father of that team.
Yeah,
I feel like he can do that kind of bit.
Yeah, him and Susie Wolff, to be honest, they just seem like the best people to go to a dinner party with, don't you think?
Oh, that would be great dinner party guests.
Susie Wolff is a badass. I'm so gutted that she never actually got a drive. That was That was kind of, again, it was one of those things where you were like, if
amazing.
she got a drive, it would have been so good for the sport. But yeah, it wasn't to be. But she's so cool.
Yeah, I agree.
To be fair, because it was like she was testing with Williams, wasn't it? So part of me is like gutted, but then part of me is like, I'm glad that she didn't have to drive that dog of a car, to be honest. Like, God, it's enough with Russell in there, like with 3 year term. Who's next? Is it
Me?
you? Yeah.
Yes, it is
Go.
I. So, new season means lucky number 8, guys. And I'm not a woman. I'm not a talking woman, guys. I do not like to talk.
No.
But I
It's the
talk
wrong profession.
I'm not a talking woman. I don't like to talk too much.
Okay.
But lucky number 8. I have my confidence in this man, and there's so many circumstances surrounding this lucky number 8. It's obviously beating Schumacher's time, but at the same time, this particular season has 23 races, guys. And that's the first time. So if he does this, he is ultimately the GOAT that Nyasha talks off and the superhero that I talk off. So that's what I'm looking forward to this season.
And do you think he walks away if he gets the 8?
I do think if he gets the 8, I think he's. I don't know. What do you think? I don't know, actually.
I think he might. Like I think that would be. Could he do a Schumacher? Go away, have some time out, come back to it. I don't think that's what he'd do. It doesn't seem like that's what he'd do. I think if he was going to pack it in, he'd say, "Do you know what? 8's pretty good. Let's not be silly and let's not like diminish the legacy of that. I'm happy with 8." I think it'll be a case of looking at Mercedes and saying, with sort of new regs, are we looking like we're ahead of the game? Because if we are, then I'm going to stick. But if we're not ahead of the game, like, be very honest with me, because I'll do damage here. If you keep me in a car that's not going to win, then I don't want any part of that. So I think like that'll be a conversation that happens over the course of the year. If it looks like it's not going to be the car that's going to win, I think he 100% walks away.
Yeah, when I saw that it was a 1-year contract, I got a little feeling in my tummy. I was like, it was strange. It was even strange. I was again watching the press conference today. He said like, he said I wanted a 1-year deal. Maybe next time we won't start talking, in January. So they literally didn't even start negotiating this contract until January. And I just think if you're someone that's thinking, I want to stay in a sport for 3-4 years, you would be discussing that contract. You won the championship in Turkey. There was 4 or 5 races to go. There was so much time to talk about this contract. The fact that it didn't happen until January, then it's only 1 year. It just, I think we're unfortunately look at a guy who's thinking outside of Formula One.
Lewis has so many hustles as well. I do not put it past him to kind of start.
Do you know what I mean?
A fashion label, something new.
Yeah, go into music. Like it's all there for him, isn't it? Like he can do, he can do it. He can do what he wants.
I'm not sure about the music, but anyway.
That was amazing. The day that got it got leaked that was Lewis on that track, and I was like, oh, okay, okay,
okay.
I listened to it as well, and he's talking about sex. I was like, honestly, it was like listening to like a family member talk, and I was like, I literally couldn't listen to it. I was like, you're so talented, but I can't.
You're too pure, Lewis. You're too pure.
Yeah, you literally. I like every time I look at you, you have a halo around your head. Like I can't hear you go back to back.
I just imagine you flipping over that little picture of Lewis that's next to your bed, just flipping that down, be like, not now, no, Lewis.
Yeah. Like, oh my god, no, cover your ears,
cover yourself.
Oh my God, no, not for me. But look, like we say, look, if he's someone that if he wants to do that, he's gonna do it. And I think how long has he been doing this now? He's been at Mercedes since 2013. We're talking about 8 years of someone changing the mold of what we think is a Formula One driver. You know, remember when he first started doing the whole going to America, hanging out with Diddy, doing, you know, all of these, starting a fashion label. Like
When he
people
thought
were,
he was a rap star.
yeah, like
Yeah.
look, I would if I was hanging out with Diddy.
To be fair, do
I'm
you know what I
giving him
mean?
a couple 16s.
I read somewhere that he flew from Fashion Week straight to the Russian Grand Prix once with Janelle Monáe, mate. Like, as you do.
As you do. He
As
is
you
crazy.
do.
But people were saying, like, oh, is it distracting? Is it, you know, it's not really what a Formula One driver should do. And this guy's racking up championships, wins, you know, to the point now where people like Lando Norris can have a personality where, you know, he does his thing. He has his a streaming business. He has, like, you know, clothing. Daniel Ricciardo has all these other things. Like, before that just did not happen.
The
And I think
blueprint.
he is literally the blueprint. And I think I was watching Drive to Survive, and there's a bit where Leclerc's saying, a fan's like, oh, what's happening with the clothing line? And he's like, oh, we're just putting it on hold. You know, and Vettel was like, he's not allowed. Ferrari won't let him do it.
That's amazing.
It's so funny. But yeah, you know, it's still, you know, he left McLaren because he didn't want those stifling restrictions, and you know, he's grown into the man that we see today, and I will carry on for ages if we don't move on. So,
should we ask you what you're most looking forward to?
Look, aside from the obvious, I think you've both mentioned basically, the two things which for me, it's really important we have a title fight. And I think for Lewis's legacy, if the 8th is done beating Verstappen and Red Bull, I think that it will just cement him. And I think especially if he does it in a car which is not as quick, I think that would I think the argument about him only doing it in the fastest car goes. And I think you can't, you know, even the trolls, I'm sure they'll find something. But, you know, that argument just falls down. It will just move on to the tax now. They'll be like, oh, did he pay tax on any of those championships? God. So,
that is tiresome, isn't it? That is so tiresome.
Oh, it's just ridiculous.
Those bloody BLM t-shirts.
Just keep the politics out of it.
Keep the politics out of it.
Awful.
Yeah, just a bunch of gammon who shouldn't be allowed on Twitter. Like, come on,
trust me.
Come
honestly,
on, shouldn't be allowed. But no, I think you're right.
The first one today, actually.
Oh yeah,
we got the first one today.
First gammon on the Twitter account.
Oh Lord.
Gosh.
First one.
What?
First one. Yeah, I tweeted back. You just like, because I think I said something about Hamilton, obviously, and then he was like, oh, because I think a fan asked him. He said, "What?" They had kids. It was so cute. They had like these little kids from Bahrain asking questions to the drivers. And it was so funny. They asked Max, like, what was the worst thing that's happened to you in Formula One? And is the passion worth it? Does the passion make it worth it? Wow, what a question. Max was like, I don't really think, you know, anything really bad's happened to me. You know, it's just racing at the end of the day. It's like, don't crush this kid's dream, bro. Just give him some drama, bro. Anyway, and a kid asked Hamilton, he goes, if you could ask the genie 3 wishes, what would it be? And he goes, equality for all, food for all, and for the world to become like a cleaner place. And I tweeted the answers. I was like, that's really cool. What a guy. So I was like, oh, he's in a sport where the carbon footprints. And I was just like, oh, you've got the first one. Got the first one. I can't believe it.
That's a good sign, though. That means, you know, that's how you know you made it.
Yeah, the tweets are not just going out into an abyss. You know, the gammons, it's reaching them. So it's
you haven't truly cracked F1 Twitter until, you know, until someone's abusing you about something. And then you're like, it's great to be here. Lovely to be here in this sport
Love
of
the
privilege.
fact, like, F1 fans are not friendly. Let's just make that clear. And if any of you guys want to tweet us, feel free, because I can go all day.
But you guys listening to this and supporting us are lovely. I just want to put that on record. Just in case.
I do not play.
No, Thandie doesn't play, but
I
do. I play nice.
Thandie is not a woman who speaks. She's a woman who calls people out on their shit.
Exactly.
No, yeah.
Love that.
I am not a speaking woman.
No.
I think you're right.
Completely lost.
I think you're right, though, Nyasha. I think you're absolutely right that, you know, Lewis is, you know, incredible. But he wants to be challenged. Like, there is absolutely no world in which somebody with the elite mentality that Lewis Hamilton has doesn't want to be challenged. Like, he's not waking up on a Sunday morning and thinking, I hope Max Verstappen's not at it today. Like, he is waking up and thinking, I hope that Max Verstappen drives hard today and makes me better by pushing me. Like, that is 100% his mentality. Like, it's that invincibility mentality that he has. And I think, you know, it is good for Lewis, it's good for Max, and it's good for the sport.
For sure. That's so well put. So well put. Just as a quick one, the one thing I'm looking forward to is I think I'm looking forward to hopefully being a new winner. I'd love to, like, that feeling of watching Gasly win last season was just great. And Checo, like, mate, that Bahrain race was just a classic race. Even the Monza race with Gasly. You know, I think more instances of the top teams falling over themselves, allowing the midfield to come through, hopefully some more wet weather races. You know, we've been starved of like good wet weather races until Turkey last season. So I really hope we get some new winners and just some more topsy-turvy races. Like last season was just great for that. So hopefully that happens. But moving on, I'm gonna go. We'll do one more about this, and then we'll just go into general thoughts. But who do you think is gonna go? Who do you think is gonna be like the most improved? Or no, let's take away Red Bull and Mercedes. Who do you think is going to be either most improved or like the standout midfield driver, Jonny?
Daniel Ricciardo, I think. It's all set up for him at McLaren. Everything looks good. And yeah, I'm excited to see what he will do in that car. But like you say, when we touched on it a little bit earlier, but I just think it's the right team. It's the right fit. They understand him. They're going to let him be himself, you know, and that's what we want to see. You know, we all love Daniel. We want to see him do that. And I think this is a really, really good chance for him to show, you know, those kind of critics who a lot of people have branded him unlucky. Like you see a lot of unlucky when Ricciardo does stuff. Like, I think this is his chance to show he's not unlucky. Yeah. You know, he's a class driver. And I think that, like I say, McLaren's going to be a good fit. And I think that he will be massively improved on where he was last season, which wasn't a bad season to improve from, to be fair.
Not at all. Not at all. I think like I say, it's all set up for him. I think he's going to do really well. Thandie, who do you think's going to shine out of the midfield?
Starboy, of course. I would agree and say Ricciardo. I think it's his time to kind of express who he is, kind of show him what he's got. You know, it's a new fresh start. So I think definitely on that front. And again, as I said, a young Frenchman named Gasly, and I think he's actually got a very good chance this season as well. So I'd like to see him do a few stuff of his. He's Wonder Boy, isn't he? It's a good one.
He is, and I think same way with Ricciardo. I think it's set up for Gasly to do well. The AlphaTauri looked great in testing. He's been there, you know, full season back or season and a half back. Ricky teammate. It's all there for him to really shine. And just, you know, if he carries on delivering those consistent performances, you know, then, I mean, look, after reading that article he wrote the other day, I don't think he wants to go back to Red Bull. So I think, you know, there's rumors about, you know, maybe replacing Ocon at Renault. So let's see. Personally, I hope Ocon does well. I think for me, I'd really like it for him to be able to do well against Alonso. If Ricciardo and Norris are in a dream partner situation, I think Ocon's in like a bad situation.
Yeah, he's in an absolute nightmare. That's where no driver wants to be.
Yeah, you do not want to be up against Alonso for a multitude of reasons. But even if he wins, I think people are going to say, well, Alonso's rusty, it's to be expected. If he loses, then Alonso's had a year out, he should have done better. So I think he's in a poison chalice seat at Renault, which is a shame because I think he's super talented. I think he took some time to come back into it last season, and again against Ricciardo, we're talking about third, fourth best driver on the grid. It was always going to be hard. So let's see. I don't think that Alpine's going to be great. But let's see.
I think it's going to be hard for both those French boys. You've got Ocon, for obvious reasons, it's going to be difficult for Gasly as well. Tsunoda's a rookie, but also Tsunoda is quick. And like that, he's going to have to watch that, because if Tsunoda gets that car doing things, like Gasly is going to be under pressure, which again, I think it's good for both of them. But it's a question of, I think, in that team, Gasly is in a place now where he needs to be, being Tsunoda in qualifying. He needs to be, absolutely needs to be top dog in that team. So, it's going to be. I'm excited to see what AlphaTauri do. I've really enjoyed watching their kind of growth over the last few seasons, and and looking at who they're going to get in as drivers. And I think it's brave of them to say, you know what, like Gasly and Kvyat, we've got two good drivers, but we want to move things forward, and it's brave and it's the right thing to do. And I hope it pays off.
100%. So I guess with the season round the corner, and with Bahrain literally in a couple of days, I want you to just give me a wacky prediction. What is your bombastic prediction for the season? And I'm gonna make a little table of everyone's predictions in the first kind of few races that we get on. So I'm going to say for Bahrain, and then I'll do for the season. So for Bahrain, what do you guys think is gonna happen, Johnny?
What do I think is going to happen in Bahrain? My big prediction for Bahrain is a McLaren win. That's my big bold prediction for Bahrain, is a McLaren win. That's what I'm going for.
Yeah.
Because why not? Why not?
Okay.
If I'm right on that, I look like an absolute legend. And if I'm wrong, then everyone expects me to be wrong anyway. So let's go for it. But I think like if their package is good, and I hope that it is, let's see how things go. I think the first race of the season, there's always some nonsense, and that's what we want to see. So if there's enough nonsense that McLaren can capitalize on it, they've got half a chance. I think it'd be really, really interesting to see if they can do it. So McLaren for the win.
Brilliant.
Yeah.
Brilliant.
Okay,
Thandie, bombastic prediction.
Bombastic prediction, right? Okay. I think we are going to see a good start from our new Aston Martin fellowship.
Ooh.
But I think towards the end, they're going to have a really rubbish finish.
Okay, so is this in Bahrain?
This is in Bahrain. Okay. That's what I think.
So when you say a good start, so you're saying, do you think they're going to break down? Do you think they're going to, or just, do you think they're just going to move to the back of the grid, like people are going to pass them?
I think literally I just see them going back to the back, right?
Okay.
People are going to pass them.
Yeah.
I think it'll be a good start. Like you'll think something's going to come off this new Aston Martin, but I think I just don't think. I just think they look pretty on the air.
I think it's going to flatter to deceive.
Yeah, and I honestly just think they look pretty, but
it's true. Look, they had that whole rollout. James Bond,
got Dave there.
Dave, big up Dave, because I know that bag was nice.
Was big.
Jesus.
I remember just texting you, and I was like, Dave's on TV. Dave is rapping at the Aston Martin.
It's crazy. Look, big up Aston Martin for that, and again showing Formula One coming into the
Black Lives
to the
Matter.
vessel.
They said
Black Lives Matter. Blacks rule.
Black rule.
That's what Aston Martin said. No, look, I'm but they did the least amount of laps in testing. It's actually like where last year they had a pink Mercedes Racing Point. Now this year is completely their own car. They've actually done more changes on their car. They got more tokens to be able to change their car than any other team because they're a new team. Basically, Stroll managed to finagle some extra development out of somewhere. So. Look, I don't think that's even a bombastic thing. I think Stroll's always a quick starter. He's always good at starting. Vettel's a strong driver, no matter what we've said. So I do think you're right. I think they could get swallowed up by teams who have done better over winter. But hopefully it'll be cool to see them. They've still got a Mercedes engine, so it'll be cool. Maybe their 1 lap pace might be great. But maybe their race pace might be slightly off.
I can't wait to see what happens whenever that car sort of looks like it's being overtaken by somebody, and you just see Lawrence Stroll's hand reach for his wallet. Just will this help? Do you need more?
Can I just chuck?
I've wired the money.
Yeah.
How much for this to go quicker? How much will that cost?
Yeah. I mean, look, fair play to him. He really, everywhere he's planted his son, he's put his money where his mouth is. So, fair play. Like, I wish my dad was as supportive to my endeavors as Lawrence Stroll's dad. Honestly. Like, it's mad. Like, imagine if I didn't get a job and my dad just buys a place and he's like, there you go. Go work
but you
there.
see you literally see his mum there, his dad's mistress. Am I correct in saying?
I don't want to. I think it might be a sister. I think it might be a sister.
You see, it's very.
I think it's Stroll's sister.
It's Stroll's sister. The whole family. It's a family affair, and it just. I know. I said the other day I'd love to just have Christmas at their house. Like, I wonder what's going on. The conversations.
You wouldn't go and you wouldn't go hungry either, would you? Let's face it. Like, I want to see the size of their turkey.
No expense. Dave's probably at their Christmas.
Trust me. Did you just say Dave's at their Christmas?
Yeah, just fucking hire him little Christmas show afterwards. Look, that is silly money. Great prediction, Thandie. My prediction is that I'm going to predict that both Ferraris are not going to make Q3 qualifying. And I think that Ferrari is going to be very slow. It wasn't promising in testing, especially after last season. You're thinking, okay, we're gonna push forward. Given the way that other Ferrari directors have been sacked, how Binotto is still there, I don't know, but fair play to him. But I genuinely think Sainz and Leclerc are going to struggle. I think they're going to be lower than 10th qualifying. I think I think possibly looking at 13th, 14th, maybe. I think it's going to be painful because I think you're looking at 5 teams. I think who are going to be faster than Ferrari. Mercedes, Red Bull, McLaren, AlphaTauri, and then Aston Martin potentially, Alpine potentially. I think it's going to be between those 3 teams. I think they're going to I think they're going to be the ones vying for those, maybe like between 8th to 10th, and then obviously 8th to 13th, 14th. I think they're going to struggle. So
I mean, imagine being Carlos Sainz. Like you've just driven the wheels off that McLaren. You think you've got yourself an absolute belter of a deal. Like, I'm off to Ferrari. They're good, aren't they? turning up, seeing what that car is, and being like, maybe this, this wasn't the car that I was promised. But yeah, I mean, I feel for him in that sort of, he deserves a good car. I think it's going to be really interesting to see that new driver pairing. Really, really interesting. How will they get on? Carlos Sainz is trying to prove himself. Charles Leclerc is trying to prove himself as a number one driver for Ferrari. I think it's going to be really, really interesting between those two.
For sure. Thandie, what do you think about Ferrari?
Hard pill to swallow. They're not that amazing, and I do definitely agree that I don't think this car this season is going to be any better than last year. I think it's really struggled from what we can see already, so I don't really have high hopes for them, I'm afraid. And it's really sad, to be fair, because Leclerc, he has a whole fan base behind him that really want to see him do well, but he'll never succeed in Ferrari at all. And I know he's very hard on himself, as we always see. He can be very hard on himself, but sometimes, it's just the car.
Yeah. It does look like, when he signed that 5-year deal, it looked like the deal of a lifetime.
Yeah.
But, he is literally shackled to that team now. We're talking about a period where Hamilton's potentially leaving the sport. Red Bull will always have a seat, although whether they'd ever put Leclerc and Verstappen in the same team, that would just be ridiculous.
Yeah.
But look at McLaren could be, Mercedes engines. We've got regulations coming in next season where everyone's going to be closer. Who knows how good that McLaren could be? Who knows how good Aston Martin may become? Alpine, all these other teams. If that Ferrari doesn't improve, I mean, it is going to be a waste of two exceptional talents, to be honest.
It's sad. It's sad, isn't it? Like we all want to see it. We all want to see a fast Ferrari. Like Formula One, it's in the lifeblood of F1 is having a quick Ferrari.
Exactly.
I'm not saying that I want them to win everything. Of course I don't. But I want them to be up there. I want them to be making a good case for it. And I think that's what we all miss at the moment. It is, it's just sad. It's like, it's like watching your dad cry, seeing Ferrari in the stage we're at the minute. Like you don't quite know what to do. You don't know whether to hug them or, I don't know. It's just weird. It's not how it's meant to be.
Pat them yeah, no, that is a brilliant.
Hug your dad. What is wrong with you? Hug your dad.
I just want to make it clear.
I don't know what I do.
Don't know what to do.
Sorry, Dad.
Yeah. No, look, I think that's great. And look, guys, let me get a quick snap. Who is going to be F1 champion 2021? 23 races, 5 continents. Who's going to come out on top? Jonny.
Lewis. Has to be Lewis.
Yeah.
Has to be. It has to be.
The black guy.
Which one?
Lewis Hamilton.
Thanks for clarifying.
Nyasha?
Look, man, I don't want to be. Look, I was hoping one of you, man, would have said Verstappen, bro.
No, we've done it deliberately. We've stuck it on you now.
Yeah.
You know what? Nah, Hamilton's gonna win.
No, there we go. There it is.
Couldn't do it.
Give the people what they want.
No. Look, you know what though? It's the first season since. I mean, even the Rosberg years, I was sure he was going to win it. And I think 2016, we all know how it went. Rosberg did really well, but we kind of know the reasons why it didn't happen for Hamilton. Some of them were his fault as well. So, it wasn't completely mechanical. But this is the first season where, and look, we're all taking this from testing, and if that Mercedes turns up and is 4/10 quicker than everyone else, I'm going to screw. I'm going to lose it. But, this is the first season where I genuinely, I'm not sure, I'm not sure. And I genuinely think that we could have, I think how it will go will be similar to 2018, 2017, where Ferrari started off quicker and Vettel had the upper hand. And then I think over the course of a season, I trust Mercedes to be able to develop their car to get better. And Hamilton always comes on stronger in the second half of the season. So I just think I think he's going to win it, but I do think first half of the season until the summer break, I think it could be Verstappen leading. I kind of hope it is, like we said, just for the sake of the sport. I think if we could have a blockbuster season when we're still semi-locked down and whatever, and I just think it would be, all eyes would be on the sport, and that'd be great.
It would also make, how good would it make Drive to Survive as well?
Oof.
It would be amazing.
It would be incredible.
Season, yeah.
It'd be incredible. Although Verstappen is hardly in it, and having watched the press conference today, I can see why. The guy just, honestly, he's just so anti-press. He hates it. But look, he's great for the sport. He is next up. Basically, we're kind of watching, I guess, when Senna was coming up or when Schumacher was coming up. When we first saw Lewis come on, like, you're seeing the next superstar. It's a matter of time before he wins a title. Hopefully not too soon, but no, even if he does, I'd be really happy for him if it does happen. Because anyone who wins a title deserves it. So yeah. Well, guys, I'm going to wrap it. That is the inaugural Quick Stop F1 podcast.
Wow!
Thank you so much, guys. You guys were amazing. Well done, Jonny. Thank you to our guest, Jonny Mounsor, for coming on.
Thank you to our guest, Jonny.
Thank you so much. Like, it's absolute joy to be here for your first episode. Really.
Oh, man.
Did you have fun, Jonny?
I loved it. This has been great. Like, if I sit and talk about like F1 for this long normally, I think my girlfriend would leave me. So I'm really pleased that I actually get to do this.
Yeah, that's what Quick Stop podcast is all about. Like, we don't want anyone's girlfriends or boyfriends leaving them because you just want to go on about Formula One. But I feel like, as I said in our promo video, a lot of people literally after the weekend are still on that buzz on a Monday. And you do just want to talk about Formula One, and sometimes you're not always around people who can talk about it. Especially people who are as cool as me and Nyasha, do you know what I mean?
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Do you know what I mean?
100%. It goes without saying.
I didn't even know.
You don't think you're cool?
I do, but I don't want to come across like I do. But I'm aware.
So I think we're the coolest people to kind of sit down and have a chat with, because everything we're saying, you're probably thinking anyway.
Yeah,
I mean,
there you go. And if you didn't know that we were confident, then just check out this outro.
There you go.
That is all the evidence you need. But we're going to leave you there, guys. I'm new to this podcast stuff, so what I will say is share the podcast if you can. If you've got to this part, give us a rating on Apple Podcasts. Tell your friends about it. But thank you for joining us. It's goodbye from me. Goodbye from Thandie.
Goodbye.
Goodbye from our guest, Jonny.
Goodbye.
And we will see you after the Bahrain race. We'll do a post-race podcast, and we'll see you then. Thank you very much, guys. Take care.